Good afternoon, everybody, and good morning to folks out on the West Coast and as far away as Hawaii, I believe we may have for today. I am John Prette, and hopefully you can see my face for one of the first times on these meetings ever. Welcome to our first Zoom meeting for the Project Management Community Group as we work on a little bit of a platform change, try some new stuff. First, as we're getting into it, I want to thank everybody for taking a moment to register for the meeting, to get the meeting link, especially on extremely short notice, as for those of you who remember what we talked about in our June meeting is we're going through some transitions at Educause proper as far as changing some staffing changes and some technology changes as well. So we're kind of working right up to the last minute to figure out the best way to try to deliver this month's meeting. Hopefully not hopefully, we are all project managers. We guarantee that we will do better next time and making sure that we have information sent out well in advance so that you know and can have that information on your calendar and blocked. So thank you for that. So without further ado, let me jump into what we have for today. As I said, welcome to our first Zoom conference. What has changed? I'm guessing a lot of us or most of us have used Zoom, especially over the last 4 or 5 months. For us today here from the PM group, it gives us a much more personal experience, I believe, than what we had before on our on the Adobe Connect platform. We can see each other, we can talk, you have a little bit more visibility to what we do. So we've got the video along with it. It's actually going to be moderated by us today. I believe we're working to have an Educause person on the line so she can be here with us, but we are actually handling the moderation on our side versus Educause doing that. What's the same? We'll ask you follow the same basic ground rules. Please mute your phone while you're not speaking. You have the ability to do that. We can mute everybody. We'd rather not have to. We'd like you to take ownership of your own line. Don't place us on hold. We love music as much as the next person, but we don't want to hear it, especially coming across our recording. As you know, we are being recorded. That's what you should see if you look at the participant list, the little flashing red light that we are being recorded. And please, please, please use the chat box during the discussion to ask questions, but we will try to be a little bit more free-flowing with opening up the mics, especially as we get to the latter parts of the agenda today. So first things first, welcome back. As you can probably see, I'm going to stop my video, or sorry, stop sharing for a moment so that we can actually see each other's faces. So you can probably see me talking somewhere on your screen in the green shirt. I'm John Prette. I have been one of our community group co-chairs for a little over 1.5 years now. And with us also today is we have Lisa Veloz, and Lisa will say hello. She may have to drop off though.
Yes, I have opening of campus to take care of. Hope everyone has a good meeting though.
So thank you, Lisa. And as we look around and see, the folks who have their cameras on, I think my favorite is Vernon, because most people would think that that's probably a virtual background, but I'm wondering if that's actually your real background.
It is, but actually it's a picture of what I'm looking at when I look forward and over the computer.
So
that's like Cocoa Crater.
Very cool. Thank you for joining us all the way from Hawaii today. Sorry, I couldn't help but notice that. So thank you. And as we get ready to go back into the presentation, just a chance. It's fun to actually see people's faces. It's a little bit different than what we've had in the past. So thank you, everybody, especially when we go into discussion portion, if we kind of pull down the presentation and sharing to go into a mode like this to see. So thank you. I'm going to jump back into sharing as we continue. All right. So we also have with us today, we do have our PMCG steering committee members, so they are on the call as well and will be helping us moderate the chat, etc. And we'll be providing an Educause 2020 conference update. For those who don't know, they announced very recently that it is going 100% virtual. So we'll have some information that we've learned through the work that we've been doing in the background on that and how the conference is going to happen. We'll have notes from the listserv. So we have a couple topics that folks brought up in the last couple of days. So we actually have a couple special guests that will ask their questions to the group that we have here today with us and have a chance to get them some live responses, information right on the spot for that. And we'll have an open discussion time. So we don't have a big guest presentation today. It's very much open discussion for us as the core of what we're looking to do. Things like returning to campus, how it's changing our processes, what we're doing, how we're hanging on, how we're going into the fall working, and any tips or tricks that we may want to share with each other. And then we'll go through a closing. We'll get some feedback on how the Zoom is working, ways that we can improve next time. So any feedback you have there, as well as future topics. All right. So Educause 2020. The conference this year, normally a conference would be held over a 3-day period. It was supposed to be held in Boston, and you would get, you check in, and we have community group sessions throughout the conference, mix of all the different types of sessions, keynote speakers, panel discussions, poster sessions, everything, small group, large group, et cetera, going on throughout the conference. With the switch to virtual this year, the core conference is still October 27th to 29th. There are a few different types of sessions. There's still your 3 main big keynote speaker or general sessions. There's 250 live breakout sessions that they're planning for. And they also have what are called on-demand sessions. And I will ask Jen to fill anything in. Jen Birch, one of our steering committee members. But the on-demand, I believe, are supposed to be pre-recorded sessions that you can listen to at your convenience. Jen, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
And we have the virtual exhibits, still peer-to-peer stuff, networking opportunities, a little bit different forum that we traditionally had. They've added a community day, which I'll talk about in a couple moments, as well as learning labs and experience summits, which are different names on and spins on things that they've done traditionally. So I've got a little bit more information on those 3 items in the bottom row. So the core conference itself, if you did see on the previous slide, there is still a charge for the conference this year based on the amount of content and the things being put together. So Educause is still charging for it. I believe there is the ability to request scholarship if folks have are going through hardships and need some assistance financially to be able to attend, even if it is just virtual for that. So the core conference itself includes the 2.5 days from the 27th to the 29th, as well as what they've done is add a community day on Friday before the conference starts. And they actually, Educause planned this even before the conference went 100% virtual, with the idea of having a virtual day for the community groups to work and gather the 69, I believe I saw, different community groups can all have times, and it's a chance for people who are attending the conference to learn a little bit more about the communities and the community to actually put on particular agenda topics they may wish to have. So you don't have to be a member of the community group to attend any of those communities, and very much a marketing type of day for that. And then the core conference with the different exhibits and sessions like I showed on the last slide. Additionally, they have, where before there were pre-conference seminars, typically the day before the conference starts, they're doing learning labs this year. So they have 7 different pre-conference seminars or learning labs where you'll pick up a topic of interest, and you actually, for many of them, you'll actually meet, instead of blocking out a full day, you may meet a few times over a couple of weeks before the conference and work through things and learn from the expert, and then follow on, and some of it will even carry on for a period of time after the conference. Additional costs for the learning labs. And then finally, there's post-conference in the week of November 5th, or on November 5th, there are 5 experience summits that are focused on diversity, equity, inclusion, enterprise experience, teaching and learning, cybersecurity, and that's 4, and I don't know why, 4 of them, sorry, on November 5th. I can't keep my numbers straight. So those, there's a link to the Experience Summits in the presentation, so you'll have a chance to see it afterwards as well. So everything you can find right on the Educause site. If you go to educause.edu, and then there'll be a banner right on the top for the annual conference there for you. So I'm going to pause my speaking for a moment, check the chat to see if we've had anything come in or any questions. If there are any questions on the conference, comments, anything, please feel free to add them to the chat. And it looks like I have nothing in there right now. Okay. So for Community Day, this is really where the PMCG spends our time and what we've traditionally done. The last 2 years, Kendra, who was my co-chair before Lisa, and I broke our community session into 3 pieces. One of them was an icebreaker activity. We tried to do a hands-on, get to know each other, networking, around the table activity. This past year, we did project estimation with M&Ms. 2 years ago, we did a Lego activity about resources and requirements. So we do something to get people to kind of see a project management related topic with a hands-on activity. The second part of it is we've done breakouts, discussion, similar to what we do in a monthly webinar, where we'll have topics and maybe people will rally around it. Last year we did them as breakouts. Previously we did it as one large group and talking about topics. So it might be starting a PMO, it might be project governance, it may be training that we're looking at, it might be our project management processes. So all of those we have as part 2, and then our third part of it was sort of a state of the union, if you will. We called it our annual meeting for the group, where we'd walk through and say, here's how many members we have, our growth or loss over the past year, the different types of topics we talked about over the year, how many threads we had go across the listserv, really the activity of the group coming across there. So that was the third part. With the Community Day, it is closed to only folks who are going to the conference. So for us, we have our monthly webinars, and we do our topics in our monthly webinars. What we don't want to do is shut out our 1,200 people that are part of our community and do a big topic only at the conference. But what we do want to do is put something together that will engage folks and teach them a little bit about the PMCG to encourage them to join and treat it like a marketing event. So that's going to be a little bit different. And anything that we do specifically for the Community Day, we want to make sure we offer up in one of our free sessions as well. So the other thing we're looking at are drop-ins. So to give you a chance to get to know other community groups. So even if you're part of the PMCG, this is an opportunity to go learn about ITSM or learn about women in IT or young professionals or DEI or business relationship management or any of the other community groups to get a chance to experience a little bit about them. So I'm going to again pause and note that we have in the chat, we've posted a link to the annual conference page, as well as a link to the list of the Educause community groups. So if you're interested in learning what else is out there, we know we're the best or one of the best, but in case you're curious if what else is out there, you can feel free to take a look. Thanks, Ed. So I'm going to take a moment and ask our participants, do you have ideas for what you think would be beneficial to folks who may not be members of the PMCG for us to bring forward or talk about or use in helping prepare to deliver something at the conference? And if you don't want to type, you can even unmute and jump in as well. Crickets. we'll think about it. If there's things that you think would be beneficial, feel free to add them in the chat at any time as we continue on. And at this point, this is where I will turn it over to our two guests that we have with us today. Now we'll start with Hector. And we have two guests. We have Hector from Touro College and University System, and we have Ashley from Kansas State University, who both had threads on the listserv in the last day or two, asking questions. And I want to give them a chance to ask those of us that are participating here to have a chance to ask their question and see if they can get some information right live on the spot. So Hector.
Hi, John. How are you? All right,
very
so
well, thank you.
I'm going first, right?
Yes.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you so much for the invite. This is actually my first time here at Educause, so I'm really excited. Today, I'm filling in for my colleague, Ellen, who recently took on a new project, which is basically the implementation of a solution for storing Zoom videos. First of all, I'm going to give you a little bit of background, and I'm going to introduce myself. So I'm a project manager. I work in the PMO office at Touro College. Touro College is based in New York, and we have multiple locations in the city, physical locations, and as well we are spread over across the country, right? So Touro, well, our students are coming back in the fall semester, and we have designed a hybrid approach, right? So we will be having both students in person attending classes and students attending via Zoom, right? So that's the approach that we're going to take. We have multiple solutions deployed to store videos, right? So everything will be recorded and stored. We have we use different technology, UJA, Zoom, but what Ellen is looking for and the PMO as well is for cost efficient solution for storing, right? As you probably know, these solutions might be expensive, right? So we are looking for a solution that, would save us some money, and also that would be easily accessible to students, right? That we're also looking for that as well. So my question really to the participants in the call today is if you are grappling with this problem as well, if you have any ideas or any solution that has been recently implemented at your schools that I can know of. If you do, any kind of feedback on this would be greatly appreciated. All right, so probably you're not dealing with this problem at this time. I know it's a reduced group in this call today, so.
So Hector, Ed, if you want to pipe in with what you had noted in the chat.
Sure. Just a question directed toward Hector. Does your campus have Office 365 licensing?
Oh yeah, we actually do. Yeah.
Okay. Have you all explored? It's either called Stream or Streams. Have you explored Stream?
All right. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Go ahead, Ed. Yeah.
So yeah, it's available, and we've only just played around with it recently. So I'm risking offering this solution without backing it up with a strong implementation. But in just experimenting with Teams and loading other video into it, it allows people as individuals to load video from whatever, and then they can determine who has access to it. So typical to Office 365, you set up your files, your folders, things like that, and then the user has the ability to determine who sees what. And then of course, as you know, with Office 365, when you've got groups involved, say you've got a team of people that are rallying around, say a project or a course, or, you can imagine any kind of reason for a group. Well, then that group, I think, may get a stream space. That's the piece I haven't played with. But if you're already sitting on top of an Office 365 license, I would definitely kick the tires of stream.
All right, so we'll definitely look into that. I know for a fact we have Office 365, but yeah, we'll get we'll do our research. And
depending on what your license is, whether you have A1, A3, or A5, that's going to determine your feature set. But it's definitely worth. Don't go too far into exploring third-party solutions without making sure you have a good command of what Streams provides. It may not suit your need, but it's a good to start so that you don't have to spend extra money if it works.
All right, thanks so much, Ed. I really appreciate your feedback. We'll definitely look into that.
Sure, and Hector, I can add both a little bit to what Ed said, which is if you do use Microsoft Teams, you can have stream channels, a stream channel within your team. And if we have a moment towards the end, we can even go back and show you a little bit what I was playing around with for me. But it's very much, you have to load your video the way that I've done it versus having something happen automatically. But what's pretty cool is it will actually create a transcript that's synced up to the video. Like it'll automatically it'll do a transcript to track along the video. So you get a captioning aspect of it as well. The other thing that I know that we've done traditionally, we are a WebEx school that's transitioning to a Zoom school right now, or Zoom plus Microsoft Teams. With our WebEx implementation, we actually connected into Kaltura. So I know you've got Kaltura that you mentioned. So any recording that I would make in WebEx under my account would get sent over to a Kaltura account. Whether I claimed it or not, it would go into my Kaltura account. And then I could access that video from there and download or do what I need, which works great for our professors who are using Blackboard. And that was the way that we would get into Kaltura is through Blackboard. So they would have access to their library of all the videos that any professor took, and they could tie them, then bring them right into their class or whatever they need as well. So that's the big one that we use, because when we licensed WebEx, the storage space on WebEx was very cost prohibitive versus what we're getting with Kaltura. As far as what we're doing with Zoom, I can report from me and George Mason University. I'm going to learn that one after this meeting because it's the first recording I'm doing with Zoom. So we'll see where it goes, if it stays in Zoom and I have to pull it out, or if we've actually wired that to go into Kaltura already. So I will learn more and I can report back to you from that one.
Oh yeah, I would appreciate that too. Thank you, John.
And Hector, this is Eddie. Sheba's got a comment in there, which actually we should drive out. Is the purpose of you trying to find a place to store Zoom videos is because you don't want to keep them in forever because you've put a limit on it, or Zoom's put it on there for you?
I'm sorry, Ed, I was just checking the chat and it got distracted. Your question was exactly?
I can relate. I have ADD myself. So if is your question that you're just trying to find a permanent location for these videos because you don't want to keep them in Zoom?
Well, it's really the other way around, really. So we really want to keep them, and oh, sorry for the background noise. So we really want to keep them, and we also have retention policies in place, especially in our medical schools. So that is really the reason why we want to keep them, and for a long time. That means years. So that is what we were really looking for a solution that would be like really cost effective. Zoom, probably many of you know, the storage capacity, it's really expensive. And so, yeah, that's what we're looking for on the one hand, something that it's like more cost effective, but on the other hand, some kind of tool system that can be, like centralized and of very easy access for the students in this case.
Yeah, and I happen to know Sheba was on a Zoom implementation team for her campus. I don't want to speak for her, but I do know that they set a policy for the 90 days after that, the users are to download their videos if they want to keep them. I think we have just sent out communication to our campus saying this is how we're going to proceed. Now, I'm interested by what, let me scroll up in my chat, by what Jennifer said about setting that location to another location. It'd be interesting to see if you could combine Zoom and Stream together, but I'm talking off cuff, and so I need to back down a bit here.
Yeah, I see Jennifer's comment too on Google Drive. Yeah.
Yeah, we're similar to
Yeah.
what Chris has posted.
Oh, there you go. So yeah, and Chris is even mentioning VidGrid, right? That's a solution that I'm not familiar with, but it would be probably worth it to look into that as well. Okay. All right, and all right. So I think that was definitely really helpful. My only question would be, and it's okay if you don't know or cannot share those details with me in this call today, but from a price standpoint, if you're using Zoom or if you're using any other solution, like what would be the average price that you're being asked for 1 terabyte? Or that would be probably getting into.
So Hector, this is
level of
Adam.
detail.
I don't think I could answer that off the top of my head. We have a couple different storage solutions for different purposes. We use Stream, which was mentioned earlier. We were migrating from Media Beacon to a application called ZDAM. It definitely is by the size that you need and some of the features. If you want, I can follow up with you on the side with what we're paying migrating over to a new solution that offers more features and is less expensive. But you did call out that it would need to be cost effective. And I think a new purchase probably wouldn't be super cost effective, especially if you're looking at the terabytes worth of data range. But I can follow up with you on the side with some details about what we've purchased and some estimates of costs.
That would be great, Adam. I would really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Certainly.
All right, so I guess that would be all on my side. Thanks so much, everyone, for chiming in.
Hector, thank you for joining us. And if you have any additional information, feel free to, for Hector, if you have other questions, feel free to add them to the chat. And anyone else, if you have other information for Hector, feel free to add it to the chat. We will download and save it as part of the end of the meeting. So you'll have a record of that too. We'll be able to send that out to everybody.
All right,
Great.
Thank you so much.
You are welcome. Thanks, Hector. And then I'll turn it over to Ashley from Kansas State. If you want to let us know a little bit about what's going on with your policy and process review. And
so we had a reorganization about a year ago, approximately. I don't remember the exact date that it started, but we had some hiring of some deputy CIOs in our office and then a complete reorganization. So our teams were split up and our PMO was technically disbanded and we were put into a different team. Now I'm still a project manager and I'm still doing project management work, but at the time it looked like I would be doing more portfolio management and helping with our governance committee. That has since changed. Our CIO met with us a couple of weeks ago and was very interested in some benchmarking on what other PMOs are doing, who they report to, how many people they have on their staff, and just some general information about what other PMOs look like from our peer institutions. And so I created a very short survey and posted that out there yesterday. I sent it out to this listserv, the Educause listserv, as well as directly to some other PMO directors that I know of, just looking for some general information that I can report back to our CIO. We just recently also lost a project manager, so we will be, hiring another one. So it's interesting to see what other people are doing. And I just looked a few minutes ago, and I've already got 36 responses, which I was floored, because I didn't know if I would get 10. So it is going to be very interesting to see what the results of this survey look like. I've had a couple of people report back that it takes less than 10 minutes to fill out. It's very short, mostly multiple choice, but we very much are interested in your input as we move forward with refreshing our PMO at K-State.
Great. So I just put in the chat, and I know that I synced up with you yesterday, is if you weren't aware, is that for the PM community group, we're actually building out an annual survey type process right now that will in the future have that information at your fingertips if all goes
Oh,
well.
that's great.
To be able to have some of that qualifying information on PMO sizing, what we do, because of the different types of roles we have, as well as things like the tools we use, our governance processes, et cetera. So Peter, who I CC'd you on, or CC'd on the note to you yesterday, he's who's coordinated the survey for us. So we had originally closed the survey at the end of May. We extended a little bit. So we may have some additional data for you there that's in the process of being cleaned up, but he may be able to share some information with you off of that to help as well. If you're interested, I know I can speak from my PMO. We just got a new CIO at Mason last November, and his plans when he came in were, his first thing was, we need to build out our PMO. We've existed for about 13 years at that point. We had 2 of us for many years and had grown to 5. And his plans were to double our size to 10 based on what he was looking to have us do, because he wanted, in his quote, professional project managers on all the major projects. He was tired of, his first impression was, hey, wait a minute, things aren't getting done and aren't getting done well. We're underutilizing all of our purchases. We need people to make sure that there's plans. So it's a project manager / analyst type of role to make sure things are getting done and actually done well. COVID hit. We had one of our project managers leave and budget cuts hit. So we went from 5 to 4. So we're more likely going to stay at 4, and much more likely to stay at 4 than we are to get to 5 or 6, let alone 10 right now. So we're figuring out a little bit about how we're going to go to market and do that, do everything that he wants to do, and focusing on our governance processes around there. So that's one of the areas we're focusing. And if anyone else wants to add, if that's information you think would be helpful in this setting, we can see if anyone else wants to share their story with you as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right. Thank you, Ed, for posting the survey link in the chat. So if you haven't done the survey that Ashley was looking for, the survey, the link is here, but we also do have it in the chat for you. So not that I'm encouraging you to go click on it right now and do it in the background, but we know that we're project managers, we multitask.
And I can, when I get all of the results in, I can send those to Peter as well.
Wonderful, that would be great and helpful that we can use that and share back out to the group too.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you very much. And just for those who don't know, as I talk about from the listserv, I don't know if this is going to be a recurring theme, but it's something we have done in the past, is all of our listserv archives are public. I've got a link to them here. The other thing you can do is right off our community group page, there's a link for the archive. That's where you can see anything that anybody has sent to project list in the last more than 10 years. It's cataloged out there and it's searchable. So you can look to see, because in a lot of cases, we're not always the first ones that ask these questions. So if there's particular topics we look at, and because we're project managers, we tend to not just ask about project management. We have questions like what Ellen and Hector just asked, which is, what are you doing in this space? Which tends to be a project we're working on, or a product tool area, versus just the how do you manage projects, or how what approach do you take? So we get a lot more of that focus too. All right, we have about 20 minutes that we can use, and this is where we open up the Reddit portion of our session, which is the Ask Us Anything, and really talk about anything that you want to talk about that may be going through open discussion groups for the list. We had a couple weeks back, we had put a question out, Adam put a question out to the list related to focusing on our fall semesters. I know a lot of us are deep in it right now. So that's one thing I'm curious about, which is we're going through move-in right now with a plan to start classes next week in a hybrid model. I'm tracking what's going on at North Carolina and Notre Dame and some of the other schools that may have started already and are seeing a spike in cases and wondering how that's going to impact things and what we're being asked to do. I also know that one of our 4 project managers that I just mentioned, to Ashley, was pulled in almost 100% of his time to help coordinate our safe return to campus effort over the summer that had 18 different subcommittees on there, which is typical for higher ed with that number, or those large numbers, which means it pulled them out of being able to work on projects that we needed to work on. So I'm curious to the group, I'll throw it out with a start, which is, what are you doing and how are you from a PMO being asked to help support any of our fall either return to campus or fall semester startup activities? And feel free to open your mic and speak.
So John, I can say something about what we're doing at BGSU. I think the focus on our public health space has really increased in the past 5 months, and we've recently hired a CHO. We didn't have a chief health officer at BGSU up until this point in time. He started a couple weeks ago. So I think our what we would call our project management office has really gone into a mad dash to try to help and support our CHO and the group that he's forming around himself to make sure that we're doing everything per CDC guidelines and public health best practices. So I think largely in the past couple months, we've been asked to assist in those resumption activities, the things you just talked about, John, and really getting in deep with the workflow of how we're going to be doing contact tracing, symptom screening, facilitating distance move-in, like you mentioned, how dining is going to happen, and really diving into the business process side of things, kind of outside or an expansion of project management stuff. And I think we'd be kidding ourselves if we didn't acknowledge that this fall will be a little bit unique. And from a project management standpoint, we really pivot to help facilitate this and really coordinate those items that would normally reside under kind of departmental operations, like how does student financial aid get students into the door and what's the traffic and workflow areas. So we've been kind of pivoting to help coordinate some of that stuff. Yeah, and I guess I'm really interested to see, in the genesis of this question that I submitted through the listserv, was to see how other organizations were kind of handling their normal duties, start of school, and now these COVID resumption duties on top of that, and try to see if PMOs are working closely with their public health counterparts, or if they have a chief health officer, how that relationship has expanded in the past couple months.
Thanks, Adam. Anybody response to Adam of how how you're being asked to help?
What's interesting for us is that we have had a few projects like the tracing, like contact tracing, and there've been a few projects that are a little more ad hoc as a result of bringing students back in and having to deal with COVID-19 tracking right now. But interestingly enough, our PMO, as large as it is, we have not been deterred or influenced to a great deal to work on all those projects. And I don't know if it's just because the scale and magnitude of the projects that typically go through our PMO are fairly significant capitally funded projects that needed to go forward regardless. So, in spite of the fact that we have 15 project managers for our PMO, we've only had 3 newer projects pop up that are related to either bringing students back onto campus or some of the new tracking and tracing type of projects.
Thanks, Jen. Vernon had asked, does anyone provide areas where students who have online courses immediately following an in-person class can plug in? The area should be quiet enough that the student can hear, but also allow the student to speak and participate in the online class. So you mean like if they're, is that like if they're on, say like on campus for a class where they can go and have a socially distanced space that's clean and sanitary, if you will, where they can actually go participate in an online class that follows?
Yes, we have, what we're finding out is that as our numbers grow, we're starting to shut down a lot of things, especially open areas. And so I kind of feel for the student who comes in because they have an online, a class, and then they have to immediately go to an online class. Where do they go? Into their cars?
I was going to say, I know that's one thing that I've heard is you talk about the parking lot Wi-Fi has grown very popular. I think we were looking at it. We don't have it, but we were looking at it for that. Especially in our campus, it has a lot of commuter type students traditionally. But I'm not sure. Does anybody have anything that they're looking for, in situations like that?
I'm not aware of any work being done to do that, but it doesn't mean that there isn't. I do know that I've heard sort of water cooler chat of offering like stop by pods and places where folks can just hunker down and kind of like a little bubble, if you will. But how that's being implemented and what's happening with it, I couldn't speak to. But I do know that I have heard like side conversations that it is a concern that there will need to be some place where students can sort of stop in between, transition between classes, and have, sufficient Wi-Fi and be safe.
And Vernon, I can just add one quick thing to that. A number of years ago in some of our high traffic buildings, like the Union or some of our arts buildings, they did kind of take out large hallways and kind of socket in a couple huddle rooms, meeting rooms that students could, and really all it is just a very small table and a couple chairs and some, maybe a TV in some of them, or just outlets and some glass partitions that you can pull that are translucent. And we have those in high traffic areas. So really it was just taking out hallway space and slotting in a couple of those. So we put Wi-Fi connection points in there, and some of them even have BICs that you can connect directly in and hardwire. So we had done that a couple years ago in those high traffic areas, and I think that will work well for us in the next couple of years. But they're actually very simple spaces, and we've scattered those across campus.
Thank you.
So, Jen had said that, there's been conversation about having their staff spaces or admin spaces, repurposed for students. I think we had a rumbling on our campus like that too. I know for us, our department is almost staying entirely remote. So although it looks like I'm at Starbucks, I'm going to be working from home for the next 4 or 5 months at least, probably. So we do have some of those spaces that are available to see if they're looking at it. And we're already in a classroom crunch because we tore down our main classroom building to build a newer one there. So it is interesting to see if that's something that's used or done, on our campus as well. Additionally, Kevin had noted that they're expanding their Wi-Fi to the parking garages to accommodate those needs, to give it, because it sort of does give folks that space that's a private space that's that's at least good for them to work in, as long as we don't get to the extremely cold winter months and have a bunch of people running their cars in the parking garages. Vernon, not an issue for you, but for us in some of the colder climates, it can be. And what I was going to say from a Mason perspective, one of the things that we're seeing is similar to what Jen said. Our project prioritization has been thrown off entirely. That we effectively have our top tier of projects are all return to campus focused. So we've got a project manager working with development teams, getting a health tracking app, a contact tracing, and other like general reporting related to COVID on there, and then that overall coordination project I mentioned. But the other area where we're seeing is I've been getting torn into, we have everybody working remotely, which means we have all kinds of phones sitting on desks that are bricks and people not answering their phones. So we're actually working on, we're expanding our Microsoft usage and been working on a Teams calling pilot so that we can get our phones converted over to soft phones, and porting our phone numbers into Microsoft Teams so that they can ring on our desktops, ring on our cell phones, and not sit unanswered on our desk, which becomes extremely important for some of our call center usage, where we found out that that our one stop wasn't answering their phones. They were just letting people go into voicemail and then calling them back. And anybody that's been around it knows that you're not going to get the same number of calls on voicemail as you are getting from real calls. People get frustrated, they're going to hang up. So our support center call numbers were going up because people were saying, oh, thank goodness somebody's answering the phone, and helping them from other areas. So those are, getting those soft phones out, getting some of our call queues reset is one of the areas where, from a project management and IT side, that may not look directly related, but it's helping enable a longer term use in this area. So Julie, yep, had the ability to forward our phones. We did too, but you had to ask for it. And a lot of people didn't think to ask for it. And then they're using their cell phones and they don't like giving out their cell phone numbers. So what we found is with the soft phones is I never have to give somebody my cell phone number ever again. They can call me on my work phone and it rings to my cell phone, just like having a Google Voice set up or any other soft phone implementation on there. So it's a benefit that people are latching on to, so that I can call back and have it actually appear as I'm calling from my work phone. Very good. Any other topics that folks want to bring up in chat? I know Adam said thank you for the discussion around the question he had asked. He actually had to drop off a little bit early. All right. This is where we go meta a little bit with us, where I asked a question about what we're doing right here. So feel free to open up your lines, feel free to type it in chat. This is where asking about Zoom, how did this work? We definitely have a small group today. I know that the small group, I appreciate everybody jumping on. I know we have a smaller group, partially because we sent out the notice last minute. And I'm wondering partially too because of having the registration step in there as well. And it's back to school time, yes. Start of classes, we are blackout periods as well. So thanks, it's not all my fault then, Kevin. With Zoom, one of the things that I wanted to make sure that folks know, and I really appreciate you taking a moment to register to get the link, is with Zoom and the whole Zoom bombing and security settings, Educause had recommended, as well as our own institutions, that we not send out a link to a meeting in a public forum. And just like about 2 slides back, I noted that our archives are publicly searchable. When we send something to the listserv, that's in effect making something public. So sending the Zoom link to the public, to the forum for the actual meeting wasn't a good idea. As well as Zoom for recurring meetings gives you an open session. So that adds risk too for setting things up. So what we decided to do was, and we'll do a better job next time, is to send a registration link. That way you get a private link to the meeting, it's yours. It takes a moment. We asked for a little bit of additional information this time. The bare minimum is first name and your email address. We were just asked a little bit more. So asking for your institution, asking for your position or title, which was optional. So I'm curious what folks thoughts on that of, is that a hindrance, or do you see that as a hindrance to attending these meetings in the future? And if so, are there things we could do to make it easier besides actually giving people notice a little bit more than 20 hours before the meeting that here's how to join the meeting, and that we're even having the meeting. One thing that I miss from the Adobe Connect session is it let me know when people were typing. You know, kind of like the 3 dots you get when someone's typing a text message. So when I pause, I could say, oh, well, people are typing stuff, so I'll wait. I don't see that here. So thanks for earning small price to pay. Little security is good. Do folks like the video? And you can even use your, your yeses. Is the video been okay? Is that a nice change? Being able to see our faces along with the meeting, to participate. I know that's one thing that we've never had before. Thanks, Jen. And I'll hit with one more question, which is, have you noticed any lag, stutter, issues with video or the audio quality coming through? All right, I'm seeing no votes on that one. Okay. Nobody's getting coffee at my Starbucks, I know. Okay. If there's other things you think of in the next couple minutes, feel free to drop them in the chat as we read through it. Thanks, Vernon. Not seeing it in this one. And then the last couple minutes are, if you have suggestions, topics that we look for as we move into the next couple months. So things that we're looking at now that we have I'm so excited to have a steering committee working with us. So it's not just the co-chairs doing the work, having Carol, Chris, Ed, Adam, Jen, along with Lisa and myself, having that bigger group to work with, we're able to reach out a little bit more and to take on a little bit more too. So if you have a suggestion for a topic, please let us know, and you can email me directly, or email, you can email me directly. I'll drop my email address in the chat in a moment. Or if there's partnerships, there are, as we said, about 69 total community groups out there. So we partnered a couple of years ago. We did stuff with IT service management. But if there's other areas that we can look to partner with that you may be interested in, whether it's things that we may work on similar topics, business relationship management or communications, service, IT governance, or if it's more of the professional skills areas and coordinating with different groups and introducing you. I know Jen's involved with women in IT. We've got the DEI group is putting on seminars right now. LGBTQIA, working on inclusion, those areas as we talk about staff development as well. So if there's areas that you're interested in, please let us know. All right, that means we've covered every project management topic ever known to man or woman. We have nothing left to do, we can retire. We've got them all. So I'm sure there's stuff out there. Feel free to reach out to me directly. I know I put you on the spot today. Finally, we kind of go into our closeout. So I just want to say thank you again for everybody attending today. Thank you to the group. Thank you for participating and contributing to the discussion. Our next meeting hopefully we'll be past the start of classes and we'll actually be into a good routine and that hopefully everybody's plans will go as you plan them for your fall semesters, whether it's all online, hybrid, on campus, that whatever you have planned hopefully goes well for you and everybody stays safe. And our remaining meetings that we have planned right now, after September, we've got October 23rd is the community day. We may choose to do an October session as well. Typically, when we have the in-person conference, we do not do an October meeting. And then we have November 17th and December 16th. We do alternate between Tuesdays at 2 and Wednesdays at 1 Eastern time. Now, hopefully, let's see, what are we, is that 6 hours different? Okay, so we get you really early in the morning when we do some of these. So the 1 o'clocks are a little bit tougher. So thank you. And then as always, you can find us online with the community group. And if you're interested, Educause has job postings and the PMCG Wiki, which has been upgraded. So Google Sites upgraded all their sites in the last couple of weeks. So our PMCG Wiki is has been upgraded. And we actually are in the background. We have Ed Puckett is taking a look at what it'll take to do some cleanup on that site. So if you are a web person and want to help with the site cleanup, I'm sure Ed would welcome any assistance on that.
Also just looking for ideas, like what could it be? It doesn't have to be what it is today.
Correct. Thanks, Ed. With that in mind, I am going to wrap up. I'll say thank you all for joining us today. We appreciate you. Stay safe and have a great start of semester.
Thank you, John. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.